What does Northwestern need to do to have success Saturday against Wisconsin? What do they need to do to pull off the upset? Let's talk about it and then some picks around the Big Ten and the rest of the country.
You are Locked On Northwestern, your daily podcast on the Northwestern Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. This is Locked On Northwestern, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Carter Bird, and thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen every day for anything and everything Northwestern. We're available wherever you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you can find us. We're also on YouTube. Just search Locked On Northwestern. You can find us wherever you listen, wherever you want to watch. Make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, leave a comment, leave a review. We want to get your feedback and improve the show as much as possible. We'd love to interact with you as well. Also, I would like to mention that today's show is brought to you by Upside. Download the free Upside app and use promo code LOCKED to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. All right, so a little shakeup in what's become kind of the weekly schedule here. What's typically the Friday show, which is talking about the keys to the game on Saturday. That's going to be today's show because my buddy Ryan at Locked On Badgers, he's a little under the weather this week, so we're doing our crossover. We're doing our crossover for our Friday episode. So we're going to do the typical Friday episode. Today, we're going to talk about the keys of the game for Northwestern this week when they take on Wisconsin at home for homecoming. And I think it starts for the second week in a row. It starts with stop the run. Honestly, the way that these are going to stack up, it's going to be pretty similar to last week against Penn State, but stop the run. I mean, it's what Wisconsin has made their identity for, 2 decades, longer than that, way longer than that, actually. I mean, they've got Braylon Allen, best player on the team, running back, sophomore, 6'2", 235 pounds. This season, he's carried the ball 81 times for 499 yards and 6 touchdowns. He has a couple really, really impressive performances. He was 23 for 165 and a touchdown against Ohio State in a loss, and a beatdown loss in that one, I might add. He was 15 carries, 86 yards, 3 touchdowns against New Mexico State, 21 carries, 98 yards against Washington State in another loss. And then he was 14 carries, 148 yards, 2 touchdowns against Illinois State. So those are kind of his typical games. He had some very high highs, and the rest of those are what he typically has done. Now, we get to last week. Last week, obviously, Wisconsin takes a significant L to what is turning out to be a pretty good Illinois team with Brett Bielema. Well, Braylon Allen, who had run for close to 100 yards in every game, had basically averaged out to what? He'd had 6 touchdowns in the previous 4 games before last Saturday. So he was scoring well over a touchdown a game. His performance against Illinois, 8 carries, 2 yards. And that's all of the rushing yards that Wisconsin got in that game. They're averaging 169.8 rushing yards per game, and that includes a 2-yard performance last week against Illinois. They ran for 192 against Ohio State. They ran for 260 against New Mexico State, 174 against Washington State, and 227 against Illinois State. So right off the bat there, you can tell that the workhorse is Braylon Allen. And when he can't get going, all of a sudden the run game completely just screeches to a halt. And you see that with the fact that he counted for every yard on the ground for Illinois, or for Wisconsin, against Illinois rather. And I think that if Northwestern can stop the run, they can kind of just bow up and figure out a way to contain Braylon Allen. They somewhat contained the two backs for Penn State last week, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. Held them way below their yards per carry average. I think if you do something similar with Braylon Allen, I think it'll be a definite win, and it'll set this Northwestern team up for success. Next up, make Graham Mertz be the one to beat you. And that kind of goes hand in hand with stop the run. Because if you stop the run, you put a lot of pressure on Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz is a pretty up and down quarterback, very similar to Sean Clifford. I mean, he has his high moments. We all remember when he made that first start in 2020 and went nuts, started 14-14, and people started talking about him winning the Heisman. And I mean, he's their best quarterback recruit in a long time. Well, I mean, he's been pretty okay since then. I mean, this year he's 72 of 114 for a 63% completion percentage, 997 yards through 5 games, which is not a lot of passing yards. He's not even averaging 200 yards a game, just below it. 8.7 yards per attempt, a little over 13 yards per completion, 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So he's not throwing for just stupid amount of touchdowns. He's averaging about a pick a game. He's prone to turnovers in his career. He has 21 interceptions to 27 touchdowns. When you account for fumbles, that ratio becomes 27 touchdowns, 27 turnovers, because he has 6 lost fumbles in his career as well. In Big Ten play, he's 253 for 424 for a 59.7% completion percentage for his career, 2,736 yards, 18 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Against Northwestern in his career, 41 of 64 with a 64% completion percentage, 446 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions rather. And then when you look at his season to this point, he has back-to-back tough games that he has had in Big Ten play, to open Big Ten play against. First, it was against Ohio State, 11 of 20 for a 55% completion percentage. And then he had 94 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Not quite the game that you would like for your starter in your opener, especially in a game where you're a significant underdog. And you're going against a very, very explosive offense in Ohio State. You need your quarterback to pass more than for 94 yards. That's not really going to cut it. Against Illinois last week, 17 for 32, 53.1% completion percentage, 206 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. So again, not a great performance. When you run for 2 yards, you have to pass for something, and he did. When you look at his career numbers, I mean, he threw for 200 yards, which is barely above his average for the season. Threw 2 picks, though, kind of par for the course for what we've seen from Graham Mertz in his career. Speaking of his career, for the entire career, 368 of 601, 61% completion percentage, 4,266 yards, 27 touchdowns, 21 interceptions. Talked about that earlier. Just somebody who's, I mean, to me, he's kind of the embodiment of what Wisconsin quarterbacks have kind of been for a while. They're not really, I mean, since Russell Wilson, nobody's really blown you away that much. They've been, I mean, maybe there's probably been some that have done a better job protecting the football. And I think it's going to be, if Northwestern can put the game on his shoulders, I think that will go very, very well for Northwestern in this game, because I don't think he kind of has that ability to go out and just throw the ball around the yard and go get a football game. At times, we've even seen Ryan Helinski kind of go get some games. Even this year, I mean, we saw him chucking around the yard way more than we're gonna see Graham Mertz chucking around the yard against Duke. We also saw him play a very, very clean, very, very good game against Nebraska. Kind of as you move to the Northwestern offense, look, it's going to come down to making Ryan Helinski comfortable. I know last week, awful weather. I can excuse the performance, but I want to figure out a way to make it easy on him, to protect him, to give him the chance to make some easy completions, to get in a rhythm, to get confidence going. And a great way to supplement that is get the run going. Get the run going. I mean, Evan Hull has struggled here recently. It's been tough for a few games. You have a good offensive line, and that goes for Ryan Helinski passing the ball too. Wisconsin gave up 258 yards on the ground to Ohio State. Let's see if this Northwestern offense can get rolling, can get Evan Hull, can get Cam Porter kind of in a flow in this game. Cam Porter has kind of come on as time has gone on this year. Maybe he had a great first game, did have a fumble, then kind of disappeared for a little bit, and then kind of showing signs of life. Obviously, last week, were pretty conservative, ran the football a lot. Penn State knew you were going to run the football in the rain, so it wasn't very effective. Can you almost use the pass to help lighten the box a little bit and open up things for your run game? That's going to be something I'm going to keep my eye on. Finally, win the turnover battle. Last week you did it. You forced 5 turnovers. You stayed in the ball game against a team that, I mean, let's just be frank about it. They have more talent than you. So I think that that's going to be a pretty big key. If you can win that battle, look, I think Northwestern's got a good chance to win the game. If you stop the run, if you put pressure on Graham Mertz to beat you, if you get the run game going more than you have been, if you keep Ryan Helinski calm, keep him comfortable, Northwestern's going to win this football game. The line is Wisconsin minus 10. All of our lines we get from our friends at Bet Online. The over-under is 44.5. I'm going to pick Northwestern plus 10 in this. Homecoming, kind of all these great factors going in Northwestern's favor. You got the transition at head coach for Wisconsin. It's going to be just a weird game for them. How did they kind of pick themselves off the mat after the last couple games? Can they go on the road and compete? Remains to be seen. I will also take the under of 44.5 in this one, just because I don't see this being a very high-scoring game. I just don't. I mean, you've seen early in the year Northwestern put up some points. Since then, a whole lot of low-scoring games, and I think that's going to continue on Saturday. Before we start looking at the games around the Big Ten this week, let's talk about our friends at Upside. From cringing at the pump to getting an eye-popping check at your favorite restaurant, inflation is hitting us all where it hurts. And boy, it really hurts. That's why I started using Upside. Upside is an incredible app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, or dines out. With every purchase, I'm earning cash back thanks to Upside. Upside is something that's been huge for me as I've moved into my new place. I know I've told you all about that in the past. So I try to save money, try to kind of buy things to furnish the new place, and I go through that whole moving process and the settling in process. To get started, download the free Upside app, use promo code LOCKED, and get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Next, claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. Check in at the business, pay as usual with a credit or debit card, and get paid. In comparison to credit card rewards or loyalty programs, you can earn 3 times more cash back with Upside. Upside users are earning more than $1 million every week. That's probably why they have a 4.8 rating on the App Store. Download the free Upside app and use promo code LOCKED to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code LOCKED. All right, so now that we've We've talked about our friends at Upside. We can now dive into the games around the Big Ten, and we're going to start with Nebraska at Rutgers. The line is Nebraska -3. The over-under is 49 points. Nebraska's a team that I think has shown some signs of life, especially on offense. They have shown the ability to score some points. Got a big win last week against Indiana. Nebraska can score. Can Rutgers? Haven't really seen it. They have 120-plus scoring performance versus an FBS opponent, and that was in week 1 when they scored 22. So they have not shown the ability to score a lot of points. For that reason, give me Nebraska -3 and over 49 in this one. Next up, number 4, Michigan at Indiana. The line is Michigan -22.5, 22.5-point favorites on the road in Bloomington. Well, the over-under is also 59, so they expect some points to be scored in this one. I think Michigan's a pretty salty team. They've got talent all over that offense. I think that they're a team that is continuing to build as a program after having that college football playoff breakout last year. Indiana is kind of a mirage. They very much kind of were the trick to get to what they were 3-0, and then they're leaking oil now. Give me Michigan -22.5. I think they kind of put it on this Indiana team, and they're building. Give me over 59. You've seen Michigan put up some pretty high point totals this year. They can get close to that by themselves. Indiana doesn't have to do a lot to help. Let Michigan do all the work. Indiana, just give me like 17 points. That's all I really need from you in this one. Next up, Purdue at Maryland. Maryland is a 3-point favorite in this one. The over-under is 58.5. Purdue's coming off a ranked win on the road against Minnesota. Maryland, this is a team that I think has shown that they are better than probably people thought. Both teams are a lot of fun. You've got Charlie Jones for Purdue, who feels like he catches every single pass for that team. Maryland has Talia Tagovailoa, and they've got some skill position players that are pretty solid. I think Maryland can score more than Purdue. Give me Maryland -3, but give me the over 58.5 in that one. Next up, number 3, Ohio State at Michigan State. Ohio State's a 27-point favorite in this one. The over-under is 65. Look, Ohio State is awesome. I want to continue to say it every week. They have weapons all over the place. They are dangerous as can be on offense. Last year, this game was an absolute bloodbath. Michigan State has come crashing down to earth after their 10-win season last year. Give me Ohio State -27 and give me the under 65. I don't think Michigan State puts up a ton of points in this one. Finally, to wrap up the Big Ten games, Iowa at Illinois. Illinois is a 3.5-point favorite at home on this one. Over under 36.5, which is gross as can be. Look, Iowa still sucks on offense. Maybe the worst offense in the FBS. Though we know they have the worst quarterback in the FBS. Illinois might be decently good. 4-1. They're kind of rolling right now. Big win at Wisconsin last week. They also have Chase Brown, stud running back, guy who's already run for over 700 yards at this point in the year. Give me Illinois -3.5 and over 36.5. It's just too low. I think that any sort of points from Iowa should help push this thing over. So I'm going to take over 36.5 in that one. Last week, I think we kind of crushed these picks. We may have gone, I believe, if I have my math right, I think we went 10-4 in the Big Ten. Let's see how close we can get to matching it. Not going to make any promises that I'm going to do that, but I do think it'd be a lot of fun if we did. But yeah, I think it's going to be something to keep an eye on this week. See if I can keep the hot streak going. So, but now that we've talked about the Big Ten, let's talk about Making sure you're up to date with what's going on in the Big Ten. Know what your team is up against across the Big Ten with Locked On Big Ten. Every day, host Nate Dickinson and the local experts of Locked On take you across the Big Ten in 30 minutes. Make Locked On Big Ten your second listen. Locked On Big Ten. All right, so now that we have talked about the Big Ten games, it's time to do our weekly look around the country. And we're going to start with a big one of the biggest ones of the weekend. Don't ask me why it's kicking off at 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Eastern. Number 8, Tennessee on the road in Death Valley at number 25, LSU. Look, Tennessee's awesome. They're so much fun. They've been really good. It's been really weird to see them be this good. Hendon Hooker's a way better quarterback than whatever combination of Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier is back there for LSU. Look, LSU had like a 38% completion percentage in a perfectly clear weather game last week at Auburn. They cannot throw the football. They can't run the football especially well. The offense is not very good. The defense busted coverage left and right early at Auburn last week. Well, if they do that again this week, Tennessee's going to put up a ton of points really quickly. I don't think LSU, I think there's a real scenario where LSU's not that good. They got a win against Mississippi State. They gave a game away to FSU. They went to Auburn and beat an abysmal Auburn team by only 4. Didn't cover the spread in that one. Look, Tennessee -3 and give me under 65 in this one. I just don't think LSU is going to score that many points. Next up, another ranked matchup, number 17 TCU at number 19 Kansas. This is game day, and I'm so pumped for it. Good for Kansas, good for Lance Leipold. The job he's done is awesome. That's why he's getting buzz all over the country for head coaching jobs everywhere. He really is just the truth to this point for Kansas. The line on this one is TCU -6.5. The over-under is 68.5. And look, I think that this is going to be a really, really fun quarterback battle. You've got one of the most efficient players in the country in Jalen Daniels versus a guy who's got 11 touchdown passes, no picks. It's one of the highest graded out players in Pro Football Focus, been very efficient in his own right. His EPA, expected points added, is very, very high. And Max Duggan, really fun quarterback matchup there. And then I think it's just two really fun teams with not first year head coaches. Leipold's been there for a little bit, but with budding programs. First year Sonny Dike at TCU, Lance Leipold building something out of the bottomless pit that is Kansas football. But I think Kansas just does too many really fun things on offense. They're too creative in the run game. And I think that for that reason, I'm taking Kansas plus 6.5 and maybe money line 2. And I'm taking the over 68.5. Both these teams are fully capable of putting up some points. Next up, number 11, Utah at number 18, UCLA. At a stadium at the Rose Bowl where home field advantage is the most overrated thing possible. Look, Utah is really, really good. The line in this one is Utah -3.5. The over-under is 64.5. Utah's awesome. They had the hiccup in week 1 on the road at Florida in the swamp. A lot of reasons why that one went haywire on them. I don't think UCLA is that good. I think they've got a tough stretch here. They went and got a really, really big win against Washington last week to get a ranked win. This week, they get Utah, and then next week, they get Oregon, which is a really tough stretch for them. Give me Utah -3.5. I'll take the over 64.5 as well. I think both these teams can put up enough points to get over that 64.5. Next up, number 16, BYU is taking on Notre Dame in Las Vegas. Neutral site game. The line is Notre Dame -3.5, over under 51.5. How interesting is that? Notre Dame is 2-2, very easily could be 1-3, and they're a 3.5 point favorite on the number 16 team in the country. Notre Dame is bad, especially on offense, but they are coming off a bye. I think BYU is really fun. I like what they do on offense. Jaren Hall's a really fun quarterback. Hopefully they're back to full strength with their weapons. The game's in Las Vegas, obviously, and for that occasion, BYU's breaking out some awesome black uniforms. They've got a helmet that turns from, I think it turns from blue to black or black to blue. It's really cool looking. It's very reminiscent of a few years back when LSU had purple helmets that turned gold under the lights. Give me BYU plus 3.5. I'll take a money line as well, and I will take the under 51.5 in that one. These last two are going to be very talked about games. We're going to start in the SEC. Texas A&M at number 1, Alabama. Alabama's a 24-point favorite in this one, over under of 51. Look, Texas A&M's offense sucks. Jimbo sucks. They're Iowa with 5-star talent in the SEC. They have Devin Achane, who's an awesome running back, super explosive, can put up yards, and that's about it. Plus, you're going to have all the fun storylines of Jimbo versus Saban from the offseason when they were having their back and forth about NIL and all that good stuff. But Alabama's coming for blood. And A&M, like, if Alabama wants to just lock them down, they may not score. They may not score, and it'd be hilarious if that happened. Give me Alabama minus 21, and I'll take under 51. I think Alabama suffocates A&M to death in this one. I think it's like a 37, 30, or it's like a 34 6 game. I think they just suffocate that Texas A&M offense that's really bad, and they break their will in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Next up, the Red River, Texas versus Oklahoma. I forget what they call it now. They've changed it. It was the Red River Showdown, and now I think it was the rivalry. I don't even know. I've lost track. They've changed it too many times. The line is Texas minus 7, over under of 64.5. Look, Oklahoma's defense is so bad. So bad. They've been crushed by K-State, and they've been crushed by TCU in back-to-back weeks. TCU game was not remotely close. Sark is going to watch the film of their last 2 games and just be salivating at, like, I'm going to be in my bag, and I'm going to have so many tricks, and I'm going to rip this defense apart. I don't know if Quinn Ewers is playing. I think he might be in this one, but give me Texas minus 7. Give me the over 64.5. Both these teams can score, but Texas can actually get stops. Oklahoma may not stop anyone in the Big 12 all year, and it could get really ugly really fast. Be fascinating to see how Brenton Venables handles that. But that's going to wrap up the picks around the country. So that's going to wrap up today's show. It's been a lot of fun. Enjoyed it. Talked about the keys for Northwestern and their matchup against Wisconsin. Made a pick there. We looked around the Big Ten. Made a pick for every single game being played in the Big Ten. Then we looked around at the big games in the country. Not a lot of huge games going on. I think teams are really starting to settle into bye weeks, off weeks, and I think that's why you're starting to see that. But all the same, it was fun to kind of talk about these games, break them down. Last week around the country, I think I was 9-5. In the Big Ten, I was 10-4 for I think a 19-9 record. No promises that I can do that again, but it was a whole lot of fun. Enjoyed it. Thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen every day for anything and everything Northwestern. We're available wherever you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. We're also on YouTube. Just search Locked On Northwestern. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you turn on notifications. Don't want to miss any episodes. Make sure you leave a comment or review. Make sure you give us your feedback so we can make the show better. Thank you for just joining us each day. It's been a lot of fun. I'm enjoying doing this every day. Tomorrow, be on the lookout for the crossover episode with our friends at Locked On Badgers. That'll be a good time breaking down this Northwestern Wisconsin game a little bit further. But yeah, I'll see you all tomorrow.